Productivity and holidays. You being pretty productive?
No. And I mean, if you look at people's business hours, man, and how people shut down, and I find this even like selling hay and trucking companies, just in general,
Yeah.
like we have a huge productivity crisis in our country,
Yeah.
in Canada, like we really do, even compared to the US. But like we live in,
How do you define productivity crisis?
well, our GDP's, like if it weren't for immigrants, we'd literally have negative GDP growth, right?
Yeah,
like we're fully probably in a recession and nobody even realizes it
Yeah.
because of the printing of money that our governments do.
Yeah.
And it's all attached. It's actually the other link I put in the article was a Financial Post article.
From the Ford Lightning?
Oh, that's a separate thing.
Oh, okay.
The Financial Post article was on, it was a guy that was a former, I think he was in the Conservative Party. This is back in the late 80s, early 90s, back in the Jean Chrétien days. And
title is on a Financial Post. We're heading to a 1990s style financial reckoning.
Yeah.
As a share of GDP, our gross government debt is much higher than it was at the start of that decade's financial crisis. We need to act now.
Yeah, and that's a great article. That's worth reading for anyone of a younger generation, like people that are in their 50s, 60s, and 70s that are, financially astute would already feel that way.
Yeah.
But I think that we as young people, and younger than us even probably, because I'm probably still was pretty heavily influenced by my parents in the 90s. Like I distinctly remember, being taught about, how Paul Martin was a liberal,
Spending too much money?
Well, no, he was a finance minister and he was conservative, and it was shocking, and it was, but it had to happen, and they did the hard thing back then, right? And they would have stayed in power even longer if it weren't for the sponsorship scandal. It's like, there again, that's just interesting political history in Canada. But it's just fascinating how today nobody is that worked up about the debt that we have. When you listen to municipal politicians today, they literally sing that their bragging rights on spending is that we didn't have as big of a tax increase as another municipality. Like that's a crappy way to market yourself. Like how about, and I think actually maybe the city of Vancouver tried to do it this year. I don't know how it's going to work, but they said, hey, we're not doing any tax increase. But they've been jacking taxes for years and years. Like, and the problem is with raises, this is the same thing with raises when you're employer with employees. When it's percentage based, it doesn't become exponential, but the growth becomes really large because now it's growth on growth, right? And people just don't think of that. And I think the debt load that we're carrying as a country, like at some point, it needs to become like a major, major voting issue of like, hey, we are going to have austerity. And I'm just surprised. You just never see it. You hear people talk about affordability, about crime, but it all comes down to the idea of, hey, why is everything so expensive? Because we have so much prolific government spending and taxes are so high. And the taxes are high because people keep getting raises and we hire more people. And there's never the hard conversation of, hey, we just don't have the money, right? So
eventually it'll crash, right? I mean, it's got to. Something's got to
be more likely. No, it's more likely. And that's why if you look at the market we're in right now, it's fascinating that the stock market is insanely high. It's the highest valuations ever.
Yeah.
And gold and silver are literally in the last day in here before Christmas, they've been the highest they've ever been in history. And why is that? Because people have this underlying sense. There's people that have financial acumen are basically like, I don't trust something's not right here. Like the amount of money, and it's really weird because you have this dichotomy now in our society where like people are struggling and we see it. Like I'm on the school board or school and it's everywhere. Like there's a lot of people are really, really struggling, and the gap between the have-nots, like I see it in real estate where, this places still sell for a fortune, expensive places, but your average condo now in Chilliwack and where we live, it is hard to sell stuff. And there's more and more foreclosures. Like they're starting to come now. I checked last night online, like the foreclosures are on the detached market was double the number from the last time I checked. So it's definitely increasing. And you're starting to see more regular banks. It used to just be like private lenders that were foreclosing. But we're entering this tough time, and you just see like people don't realize what the medicine is going to be really, really painful, and nobody wants to admit that, and politicians never do. So I think
what is it?
So I think what's eventually going to happen is that they'll just keep spending more and more, and there will be some type of big shift, like fiat currencies. I mean, the article talks about literally like about our dollar basically being worthless, like just the idea of like, hey, nobody will buy our debt, right?
Yeah.
They will no longer have faith in the Canadian government's ability to pay their debts, right? Now, I would say in Canada, we're very protected by resources. So it's a little more complicated, right, in Canada.
Yeah.
Like
you can fall back on that.
Yeah, just send more oil out and gas. Even that's taxed a crazy amount. Like, people don't realize how much of the money that from the oil sands and all the things that the environmentalists don't realize how much of that.
But still, there's like even the
Subsidizes
talk
other
of like
stuff.
getting more pipelines here. There's no companies that want to come forward and actually do the work and create the pipeline because
it costs so much. Because you just to operate in the environment, and even the fact of how people just have veto power and sabotage projects, and there's not the full scale support that we really need yet, right?
I've seen a graph the other day of the stock market and its crash in 2008. And then I seen how high it is now comparatively.
Makes that 08 look like nothing?
Look nothing. And it's like 5 times higher now in value. And I'm like, that's not that long ago. That's what, 20 years ago, 18 years ago. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, where did all that extra wealth come from? Like, just
thin air,
yeah,
paper money. So if you look at hard assets in ounces of gold or silver, it's way more clarifying. So like if you look at when people talk about house prices, it's not healthy to look at house prices. It's way more like in dollar value in our dollar value. It's way better to look at it in ounces of gold. Then you can just see how our dollar's just not worth anything. It's not that houses have actually went up, right? And ironically on that front, like there's properties now. I listen to the Looney Hour pretty faithfully, and they talked about a property in Vancouver, and I see it on even just in our little local market. There's places that are selling back to 2016, 17 prices in some cases. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're definitely in the middle of some type of correction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
I think it's also, we've talked about it before, but the idea of a business not being there to create profit, but to create value. Like every healthy business, I think, should be there. Like I was talking to my coach about it this week about restaurants. Hey guys, if you enjoy that episode and were blessed by it, would you be willing to support the show? That would help a lot in creating more content, improving the quality of the content, putting the production value, getting more guests on, and me being able to spend more time and energy towards it. So if you're interested in doing that, you can click up here and it'll take you to a support page. But you can also subscribe to the podcast by clicking over here and doing that. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.